Good morning, students of class 8. Today we will be discussing about the chapter about tribals, that is tribals and the vision of a golden age. Okay. So in this chapter we will read about the tribal people, that the tribal peoples, they were previously they enjoyed a very peaceful life. They lived in the forest, and they had their own areas to be cultivated. Nobody was there to interfere in their matters. They, among themselves only, they used to solve various problems, and they used to do their own leaders there were to solve their own problems. And they lived in the forest. There was no division in their caste. Okay, all were very much united, and they did all the work in a unified manner. But after the interference of the sultans and the Mughal emperors, the condition of the tribal people deteriorated. Okay, started to deteriorate. And rather in the Mughal period and in the Sultan period, Delhi Sultan period of Delhi Sultan, at that time what happened, due to urbanization, migration from one place to another, okay, the forests were cleared for cultivation. For all these purposes, the life of the tribal people had a great disturbance. They were starting, their life was starting to be disturbed from the Mughal period, from the period of Delhi Sultans. Okay, and finally there was a great problem in their life came after the interference of the British, when British came. Okay, now we will see the condition, the wretched condition of these tribal people, the Adivasis, during the British rule. So in this point, that tribal societies under the British rule, we will relate it. Now the British, during this permanent settlement, okay, by Lord Cornwallis. So during this permanent settlement, the British gave power to the zamindars. They were some kind of middlemen, okay, acting. So these zamindars, they used to torture the tribals very much, because they wanted to make more profit. And due to this, the condition of the tribals was deteriorating. Okay, and they were not given the forest, and they were forced to take money, loans. The tribal people were forced to take loans, and with great interest. So what happened, they were not allowed to do cultivation. The forests were taken from them. The forests which were their own personal, that were all taken from them. And on the other hand, they were forced to take loans, high amount of loans with high interest. So what happened, they couldn't able to return those loans with so high interest. So what they had to do, the tribals, they had to work as under the zamindars, okay, and without any payment, without any salary, without any money, they had to work on behalf of the zamindars. Okay, they had to work in the fields of the zamindars, and in return they wouldn't get anything. Why? Because already they had very much debts. Okay, the payment, they with so much loans, they can't able to repay back those loans. So for that reason, they had to work on the land of the zamindars, and the zamindars exploited them. They didn't give them any money, and it was a kind of bonded labor. Okay, that means begari, working without getting any money. So these systems were there, and the zamindars also made various other persons, appointed some other persons, okay, to exploit these people. So some outsiders were there. So normally they call them as dikhus. to these zamindars and all the tribals. They called them as dikhus. So these people, they exploit the zamindars, they exploit the tribals, the Adivasis, in a very wretched condition, in a very wretched way. Okay, and their life was in a great problem. So when this was the condition, they later on they revolted for this miserable condition. So we will go in details about it. First we will read about the shifting cultivation. The tribals, they did the shifting cultivation, so we will do in details about the shifting cultivation. So let us see it. So here we can see that jhum cultivation, this shifting cultivation is also known as jhum cultivation. Now it was practiced on small patches of land, mostly in forests. Okay, cultivators, they cut the tree tops to allow sunlight to reach the ground, and they burned the vegetation over there. Then they cleared the land for cultivation. The ash, which contained potash, it was good for the fertility of the soil. Okay, it increases the fertility of the soil. Then trees are cut with an axe or an hoe. Okay, and it is used to prepare the soil on which the seeds were scattered, and then they are moved to another field. Once the crop was ready and harvested, okay, after harvesting, the land was left fallow to regain fertility. So this is the process of jhum cultivation. Okay, these are the method that the tree tops, they were cut down, okay, to allow the sunlight to reach the ground. Then they burned the vegetation and cleared the land for cultivation. Then the ash that it contained, it is used, the ash contained potash, which was very good for the fertility of the soil. Then trees are cut with an axe or an hoe, and it is used to prepare the soil on which the seeds were scattered. Okay, so all these were the process. Okay, the seeds were also scattered in the soil, and on which the seeds were scattered, moved to another field, and then they moved to another field. Okay, once the crop was ready and harvested. So they moved to the field when the crop was ready and harvested. After harvesting, what they do, the land was left fallow. Why it was left fallow? Fallow means there was no cultivation at that time. It was just left, okay, open, because to regain the fertility. Because after once the jhum cultivation is done, then the land has to be remain fallow, because it needs time for the land to gain fertility. Many tribes, like nomadic, okay, the hunter gatherers, okay, for them the forests were very indispensable for their survival. So for this nomadic people, for the hunter gatherers, the forest was becoming very much indispensable source. Okay, khones were also for the khones, the forests to hunt for meat. See, so khones went to the forest to hunt for the meat, and they collect fruits and roots, okay, and they extract cooking oil also, and from seeds of sal trees, mahua flower, okay, mahua flower. So all these they collect from the forest, okay, cooking oil, and from seeds of sal trees, mahua, okay, flower, also mahua flower also eaten or used to make alcohol. So from mahua flower can be eaten, or it can be used as an alcohol. They supplied kusum, okay, supplied kusum, polash flowers. These are very useful for the weavers, okay, for coloring of the clothes. So these all materials, they get it from the forest. So these are the important, so questions can come like that what are the benefits they get from the forest. So you can mention all these, that they collect the fruits and roots, okay, then cooking oil from the seeds of sal trees, and mahua flower, they can be eaten also, and it can be used for alcohol also. and kusum and palash flowers were used by the weavers to color the clothes. So all this. Okay, next you see forests, medicinal purposes also very much important. Forest produce sold, okay, to the local markets. Many tribals, they were pastoralists. Okay, pastoralists means herding. They herd, okay, and rear animals, so they are called pastoralists. And they moved according to seasons and availability. So every time all the places do not have, is not suitable, so they move from one place to another by seeing the season and how much available the animals were. Okay, so all the plants are, by seeing all this, they move from one place to another. Now the clan acquire right over land. Some people gain more power among clans. So among this clan, the group that live, that is called clan, and some people gain more power. Okay, they are the leader. So each tribe had a chief. They looked after the welfare, and after the coming of the British, their lifestyle totally changed in many ways. Next, we are coming to the effects of the British rule on the tribal lifestyle. Now, British commercialization of agriculture required a lot of agricultural land from the tribals. So what British needed, British wanted to commercialize, that means they wanted to make business and all, and for that purpose land is required, and they wanted to take the land from the tribals. Strict government control over the forest areas were there, as they need revenue or tax. So British, they only think about their own profit. They were always thinking about the revenues and all, and for that purpose land is required. Okay, and they always grew cash crop. So in the previous chapter also you have read that the British indulged the people to grow the cash crop, and for that reason they enforced the people to grow cash crops, and for that they tortured people very much. Okay, so these cash crops like poppy, jute, indigo, they wanted to grow, because these cash crops, they had a very much profit. British had made very much profit. So poppy, jute, indigo, these were all grown, and it took away the land by force from the tribes. Okay, so British took away the land by force from the tribes. The Dikhus, they were the outsiders, and merchants, moneylenders, and middlemen, etc. So I told you previously that these outsiders, merchants, moneylenders, all these people, the middlemen who were acting as a middleman with the British, they were considered as Dikhus by the tribals. Okay, so what are the Dikhus? I think you can able to understand. So this was the criteria. Next we are coming to the next point, that is restriction of British to the tribals. Okay, and restriction of British to the tribals and their freedom to enter into the forest freely. So restriction of the tribe, British made restrictions, okay, for the entry of the tribals and their freedom to enter into the forest freely. Previously the tribals used to enter into the forest freely, but now their freedom was restricted by the British. Okay, and their rights were also curbed over forest produce. Now at first tribals used to get various things from the forest. Now there was restriction and they couldn't able to get the things which they can get from the forest, those materials, the oil, the flowers, the medicinal plants, they can't go to the forest and get it. So all restrictions were made by the British. British realized importance of timber. Okay, expensive, then it was very expensive, and it was obtained from trees like sal, teak and deodar. So these things, British realized that these were very costly, and so they wanted to take it under their control, and tribals felt threatened. Okay, they forced to be agricultural labor. So they threatened the tribals, and the tribals were forced to be agricultural laborers. Okay, they were becoming laborers because their land were taken by the British, and they were forced to work on the land of the zamindars. Okay, and they were exploited and they were paid low wages. Then coming rise of the revolt against British. So these things led to the rise of the revolt. Tribals lost their administrative power and authority also. They were unable to perform their traditional functions, okay, follow their laws made, and they had to follow only the laws made by the British and obey British. Okay, they had to be very much disciplined. Whatever they would like previously, they couldn't do it. They can't do any functions, any festivals according to their own wish. There are some laws, there are some disciplines, and they had to obey the British, obey the commands of the British. British liked those tribes who practiced settled cultivation more than nomadic ones, as they could not control and administer as they could control and administer settled tribes better. So British preferred those tribes who liked to do settled cultivation instead of nomadic cultivation that was from one place to another. It made a great problem to the British, okay, for collecting the revenues and all. So British liked those tribes who did settled cultivation, okay, and British wanted fixed revenue from the state. So if they were settled, then there will be a fixed revenue, and if they go from one place to another, then the revenue will vary. So British liked the settled cultivator. Land settlements introduced after measuring the land, okay, to get fixed tax. So land settlements were first introduced, how much the land will get for production, how much is the fertility, and then the tax was fixed after that. So Jhum cultivators, Northeast India, practiced traditional methods of shifting cultivation. Settled plough cultivation not possible in those areas. So in some areas like in Northeast India, they practiced Jhum cultivation. Why? Because it was a traditional method of shifting cultivation, and in those areas settled cultivation, plough cultivation was not possible. Okay, so British so water was scarce and soil dry, okay, produce was not good. So these are the disadvantages. So British allowed in those areas, that is in the Northeast India, Jhum cultivation, because the land was not suitable for doing settled cultivation over there, as there was scarcity of water and the production was also not good. Acha. Next we are coming, so in some parts British gave permission to carry shifting cultivation. Now Jhum cultivators was forced to migrate due to forest laws imposed by British. Okay, so British made forest laws and they were forced to migrate. Reserved forest, that has timber, which produced timber was produced in the reserved forest, and people were not allowed to enter into the reserved forest to move freely. Okay, neither hunting nor collecting fruits were also allowed. British soon decided to negotiate with the tribals. Now after that, British wanted to make some negotiation. What was that? Because British needed labor. For that labor supply, they wanted the help of the tribals. So they made a negotiation. What was that? They required labor for the forest development. So Jhum cultivators who agreed were given patches of land in the forest. Now British were very diplomat. They thought that they need laborers for getting the production. So for that, they made a negotiation with the tribals. Those who will help the British, they will be having a patch of land, okay, for cultivation. So forest department established forest villages to ensure regular supply of cheap labor in many regions. In the late 19th century, tea plantations started. Mining became important, and contractors were also there. They were recruited, and tribals in contractors, they recruited the tribals in large number on miserable low wages. So there were contractors. British have engaged the contractors, and these contractors, they looked after they contracted the tribals. Okay, they recruited the tribals, and they made those tribals work for them in a very low wages. Okay, in a very low wages. So this was the tactics of British. Okay, next we are coming to Adivasis and the freedom movement. Now here, revolts of the tribals spread. No other community did such a heroic resistance to the British rule or faced such tragic consequences. So these tribals, they were very much they revolted the British, and no other community did any heroic resistance to the British rule, or they faced such a tragic consequences. The tribals, they were very much powerful, and they revolted against the British. In 1772, the Pahari revolt was followed by a 5-year uprising led by Tilka Majhi, who was hanged. So these are the names of some revolts which we will see. That the Pahari revolt, it was followed by a 5-year uprising led by Tilka Majhi, who was hanged, and then Tamar and Munda, okay, revolts, it was followed. Then revolts took place in Singhbhum, Gumla, Birbhum, Bankura, Manbhum and Palamau. Then it was followed by the Kol uprising. Khewar and Bhumij revolts were also there. So these are the names of some revolts. The Adivasi revolt, they have raised their voice against the British. Now tribals, they were very much tortured. Okay, oppressions were done by the zamindars and the British, and which led to numerous revolts in the late 18th and the early 19th centuries. So there was changes in law, and mandatory payment of new taxes, and continuous exploitation of the tribal population by the moneylenders, traders, led to revolt. So these are the cause of the revolt, that because the law was changing, the tribal was not given any independence, and it was mandatory for the tribals to pay the taxes, though they were not given any payments, and continuous exploitation of the tribal population. For this purpose, and by the moneylenders and the traders, the revolt was there. Now the Santhal Hul was the revolt, Adivasi revolt. It was the war. It waged war against the permanent settlement of Lord Cornwallis, and in this revolt, Sidhu Kanhu Murmu, they were the leaders of the revolt. So the two leaders, you will remember the name Sidhu and Kanhu Murmu. They were the leaders of this Santhal Hul. It was a Adivasi revolt. Now what happened over here? You see, the Santhals, they were very much skilled in archery. They knew very much, they were very good in archery. So they shoot arrows accurately. So British realized that it was no use of fighting in the forest against these Santhals, okay, because they knew the forest route very much, they knew the archery very much. So this thing the British realized. So British, with great diplomacy, used modern firearms and war elephants. So British, they had a very diplomatic idea, okay, and plans, and with those plans they made very modern weapons they have made, okay, firearms they have made, and war elephants also they have engaged, and they reached the foothills on which Santhals were stationed. Okay, then what happened? As the battle began, the British officer ordered to fire the guns without bullets. So this was their tactics, that they ordered to fire the guns, but they told not to fire the bullets. So what happened? The Santhals, they didn't understand this tactics of British. They got trapped under which the British had made. Okay, so they charged with full force. The Santals, they charged with full force. As soon as they neared the foot of the hills, British army attacked with full power using real bullets. So it was very unfortunate for the Santals. Santals were shot brutally. So this impact was overshadowed by the revolt of 1857. So we can see this. This was a very bad ending, very brutal end of this revolt, and this impact is also shadowed in the revolt of 1857. We can see, and British took the forest under their control. The Santals had no right to enter the forests, okay, especially in the reserved areas. So forests became a state property, and Adivasi uprisings in Jharkhand belt put down by the British using massive use of troops. So there was uprising in the Jharkhand belt also, but British with their massive troops and massive armaments stopped the uprising. Okay. Acha. Next we will see that the Kharwar uprisings. The Kharwar uprisings and the Birsa Munda movement. Over here, most important of the late 18th century. So this was another important Birsa Munda movement. In 1914, Jatra Orao started, okay, which was also called Tana movement. So these are small revolts, okay, movements against the British. The movement joined this Tana movement, it joined the Satyagraha movement in 1920. You know, it's Gandhiji Satyagraha. Which stopped the payment of land taxes to the colonial government. Okay, so this movement was why? To stop the payment of the land taxes to the British government. And several revolts also took place in Odisha and Northeast. Significant one was Pike Rebellion of 1817, the Ghumsar uprisings, the Sambhalpur revolts, the Khons of Odisha revolted, and they feared that the British could convert them into laborers. So the Khons, they revolted against the British because they feared that the British will make them as the laborer by taking their land. And the Khasis were also there in Assam. They revolted as the British wanted to construct a road which passed through the land. So you can see, after this revolution, after the Santhal Hul, there are also various Santhal revolts in various areas, and the Nagas revolted, the Kukis, Kharwars, then the Kacha Nagas, Kols, Santhals, all revolted. So these are the small groups, okay, Santhal groups that revolted against the British. In Andhra Pradesh, a revolt broke which was led by Alluri Ramachandra Raju. Okay, so here it was made as a guerrilla war, and it was against the British. Okay, so British, they were unable to cope with the they were very unable to cope with these forces. Okay, British unable to cope brought special force to crush it. So now you can see these small revolts, they were also very powerful. Okay, and this person Alluri Ramachandra Raju, he was very much powerful, and the British, they found themselves very much difficult to face this person, and they also made guerrilla wars also there. And so they unable to cope, and brought special force to crush it, and only when Alluri Raju was killed. Okay, so I think you can able to understand this. And Alluri Raju, he was very much powerful, and British had to enforce very special force they had to bring to crush the power of Alluri Raju. And I think you can understand this chapter very much. Now after crushing these revolts, now these groups, these Santhal groups, some of them have joined the Swadeshi leaders also, the freedom fighters, they have joined, and they stood against the British. Okay, they fought they gave their lives against British, okay, who were torturing them. So I hope you can able to understand the chapter, go through the chapter, and this is for today. Goodbye.